Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. We are on day 6. It's Friday morning of the Weiner Wellness Week here at the World of Wellness. Got a great lineup of speakers for you today and a little bit of a surprise. Yeah, we're gonna pull one out of the archives for you today, but I'll tell you more about that later. I'm Joe Messino. I'm your host. Everybody's traveling. They left me here to mind the fort, so I'm gonna, do what I do best and just sit here and talk to you guys. But we had a great lineup of speakers yesterday. I had a lot of fun yesterday. So let's recap Thursday's speakers before we get into today's lineup. So we kicked off with Caroline Golmick. She's a natural health practitioner, and she talked about detox pathways. Really informative, and she really covered that the spectrum of detoxification. This is something that I've heard Jamie talk about a lot too, and everybody thinks there's only one way to detox, and that's through your liver, but that's just not true. Your body detoxifies every day, all day. You do it through your bowels, you do it through your urine, you do it through your lungs, and you do it through your liver. When you exhale, that's your lungs detoxifying, which, leads directly into that whole aspect of, the exhaling, the waste. You don't want to exhale waste into a mask and breathe it back in again. That's another subject. Anyhow, you detox every day, all day. And there's also, I left one out, sweat. So she calls it BULLS, okay? And that's an acronym for the detox pathways that are natural of the body: the bowel, the urine, the lungs, the liver, and sweat. So if you're not sweating, you're losing a very valuable detox pathway. We talked about infrared saunas. Those are very important. And the reason they're important is because if you can get access to an infrared sauna on a regular basis, and I got to tell you, folks, they are very affordable for home use as well. I have one. I bought it about 7 years ago, maybe 7 or 8 years ago, at least, maybe longer. It's at least 7 years I've had it, and I've never had a single issue. And it's a portable one. You sit in it. It's flexible, zips up to your neck, but it's far infrared, and it gets deep into the tissues to pull out toxins. So we talked about that using an infrared sauna. If you can't, a lot of people have access to, to working out and sweating on a regular basis. But one of the things we talked about was, if you get in an infrared sauna and it takes you 20 or 30 minutes to build up a sweat, that's going to show you how clogged you are and how much you really need that detoxification. I usually start sweating in no time in there, but I can always tell when I need it more than others because it takes longer to really get that sweat going. And not only, not just from your head, or from your armpits or from your feet, you sweat over your entire body in an infrared sauna. It's all over, it's coming out of your arms and your legs, your elbows are dripping, everything's dripping. It's one of the healthiest things you can possibly do. So that was one of the detox pathways we spent some time on yesterday. Of course, bowel movement. And she reiterated the fact that we always talk about, that if you should be moving your bowels 12 to 18 hours after a meal. So if you eat 2 meals, you should move your bowels twice the following day. If you eat 3, you should move your bowels 3 times. That's ideal. If you're not doing that, you have some degree of buildup, constipation, and toxins. Very, very, very important. Lungs, liver, of course, deep breathing for the lungs, how to detoxify through the lungs, using diaphragmatic breathing, getting deep down into that lung and exhaling slow and long. These are things you can find tutorials all over the internet, all over YouTube on this type of breathing. I encourage you to check them out and do it on a regular basis. It doesn't cost anything. It takes very little time, and it brings you back to one of your body's natural methods of breathing and detoxifying. So that was a great presentation. If you missed it, go back and see Caroline Golmick. And then we had Charles Benz, Dr. Charles Benz. This was one of the most intense PowerPoint presentations I've seen in a long time, because it was loaded. I remember remarking to Phil, saying, I don't think he's going to get through all these slides. He did. I don't know how he did it, but he did. And amazing. Now, here's one of the beauties of the virtual event. You take a look at this presentation, and if you just watched it live and you didn't get a chance to take good notes, you could miss a lot of valuable information. And when we used to do the workshops here, we always had printouts of the PowerPoints. And we do now for some of them, because we're doing some live ones. But the beauty of the virtual event is you can do screenshots of a slide in the PowerPoint of something that catches your interest or you want to examine further. This presentation was a perfect example of that, because these slides were loaded with information, valuable information, and just going through them one time is not nearly enough. So I encourage you to go back, watch Dr. Charles Benz again. If you haven't seen it, watch it. If you did see it, watch it again and do some screenshots on those PowerPoints. Because when you're watching the replay, you can pause. That's what I do. I pause it and I take a screenshot of the slides that I want to steal. Borrow, use. Phil? What are you laughing about over there? I only take from the best, folks, and that's who we have on these panels. Okay, and then we had Jacqueline Sheddon. She's a naturopathic physician. She was on at 11, elevating your health consciousness during a pandemic. So, she really tied in the mind, body, spirit aspect of what we're going through. And it was a really good, deep felt presentation. So if you're having emotional impact through this thing that we're going through, and who isn't affected by it emotionally? We're all affected by it emotionally. Whether you get affected physically or not, the emotional impact is there. You may have family members that got really sick. You may have family members that lost jobs. You may have family members that, that were in the midst of the turmoil that's going on politically through this thing. So everybody is affected emotionally. Families were forced to spend more time together than they ever have before. Now, I'm sure many families took advantage of that and used that positively. But maybe there were some that didn't. Maybe there were some families that just caused more emotional turmoil. So she addressed that. And if that's happening in you or your family or someone you know, then encourage them to get on the Weiner Wellness Center Facebook or YouTube channel and watch the presentation by Jacqueline Sheddon on your health consciousness during a pandemic. And then we brought the house down at noon, Dr. Young and I, Dr. Robert O. Young. We had a blast. I had a blast. This guy is great. And I didn't know. I knew he was an expert, and he's a PhD and an ND, and I knew he was an expert in electromagnetic field radiation and chemicals, but I didn't know he was an actual farmer. This guy was an actual farmer. Now, it's a little tragic because, the drought, he's in California. He's in the San Diego area, the best part of California. We talked about that. But he got affected by the drought. He grew, one of his main crops were avocados, and he lost a lot of it. if not an entire crop. And it was heartbreaking to hear that story. But Dr. Young and I had a great conversation about the effects of 5G, and he outlined the whole, satellite conglomeration out there, and how many are up there, and what they're beaming down to this planet. So even if you don't have Wi-Fi, folks, you're getting exposed to 5G, and who doesn't have Wi-Fi, right? But there are things you can do, right? I mean, you can turn off your Wi-Fi at night. You can get, the RMF, EMF blockers, electromagnetic field radiation blockers. And, the concept behind them, and I use them. Everybody in my family, uses them. We have ones we use on our phones and on our tablets and iPads and computers and flat screen TVs. And you have to put it on just about everything. If it's a flat screen, it's giving off electromagnetic field radiation. He talked about doing infrared scans. And, this is something we talked about thermography, I think, in Dr. Benz, when he was talking about cancer early diagnostics. And we talked about, thermography. And so Dr. Young brought it up too. He said, if you ever go get a thermogram done, do part of it with your cell phone up to your ear. Watch, and then take it away and watch the difference in heat that shows up on that thermogram. You'll never put your cell phone up to your head again if you do that. Now, I use a headset or the speaker. I haven't put this thing up to my ear in years. And I use a wired headset, folks. Okay, and I learned that a long time ago from my good friend and colleague, Dr. Derek Da Silva, who I've known for decades. Dr. Da Silva was one of my first mentors 25 years ago. I remember my first lecture with him. It was on probiotics. 25 years ago, he did a lecture on probiotics. But anyway, I had, of course, Bluetooth headphones, and I thought I was doing something good. And he said, you know what you're doing, don't you? He goes, you're putting that radiation right in your ear, right up next to your brain. You got a direct path from that little Bluetooth thing in your ear into your brain. He said, get a wired headset. That's what I use now. I've used it ever since. That was about 5-6 years ago, maybe longer. I don't remember. I'm losing track of time, folks. Things just keep happening. Anyway, that was Robert Young. We kicked it off with, and the funny thing is, Dr. Young, he said, if I can come on early, I'd like to come on early because I'm pressed for time. And luckily, Jacqueline Sheddon ended early. So we brought him on instead of 12, we brought him on about 11:40. And he didn't get off until 12:45. He wasn't pressed for time. Once this guy starts, he doesn't stop. But it was a great, great lecture, so don't miss that. Okay, so today, we have a surprise for you at 9 o'clock. I know Dr. Phil Ross is on the schedule. He had an emergency. He can't be here to do his presentation today. So Phil and I were talking this morning. We said, well, why don't we run one of the popular ones? Let's do a replay. He said, well, all the most popular ones were from this week. So we don't want to run them again. They can go back and watch them. And then Phil had a brainstorm. He said, you know what? Wouldn't it be nice to run a memorial video of the founder, Dr. James Weiner? Well, we get requests for his presentations on radio all the time. And here at the World of Wellness, the Weiner Wellness Week is named for Dr. James Weiner. So today, we have a special treat for you at 9 o'clock. The first presentation today will be an archive video of the icon, the one and only Dr. James Weiner from 2014, Phil? Yeah. 2014, folks. Don't miss it. We did a little preview of it, and it got me chuckling. Just the very beginning, his intro always cracked me up. But it's great to see Doc on there, and you can get a little nostalgia. That's at 9 o'clock, so enjoy that. It's only a 30-minute video, so it's not too long. And then at 10, our own Mikey G, Mike Gallagher, the GOAT, the greatest of all time, the road warrior, Mike Gallagher, will be here from Nutritional Frontiers. And he's really going to break down. And I know we've talked about it in little segments throughout the week, this new formulation called SPM. And that stands for Specialized Pro-Resolving Mediators. And, I can't remember. I think it was Dr. Benz yesterday that talked about these pro-resolving mediators being so very important in prevention of chronic disease as well as treatment. So Mike's going to break it down, get down into the science for you, really explain the mechanism that makes this so important, so vital, so effective. Okay. And we kid around, we call it, fish oil on steroids. That's just, a cute little acronym. But no, this is a very, very powerful nutritional supplement. It has a wide range of uses, and don't miss this one. This is Mike Gallagher going to break it down like only he can. And that's at 10 o'clock today. And then at 11 today, we've got our own Dr. Gideon Orbach. This is home team stuff today, folks. So we got Dr. Orbach here. It'll be live here at the Wellness Center. Dr. O gets his second shot of the week, and he's doing chiropractic, neurology, rehab, and homework stations. And as I said yesterday, folks, I think it was yesterday, when he said homework stations, he doesn't mean doing homework. He means if you're working from home, make sure that you're, correct in your body's alignment for the most part. And he's going to give you tips on how to do that. Don't miss it. Dr. O is always very visual. He's always very informative. And the tips are things that you can use immediately. And then we have a roundtable at noon. This is going to be a fun one because I don't know who's joining us yet. Mike Gallagher might join us. Tracy might join us from down at Trinity. You never know. I keep saying down at Trinity because I just assumed they went to Florida again. But no, they went to Chicago for the Trinity conference, okay? But yeah, she may join us for this because she likes this one too. It's called, But My Doctor Said. You've all heard it, right? You hear people say it all the time. We hear it in here all the time. So we'll have a little fun with that, okay? That's the roundtable at 12 noon today. And then tomorrow's lineup, I'll give you a quick preview. Jeff Nisnik at 9. Obesogens, folks. Obesogens. It's the same as a carcinogen. It's a cause of obesity. They're all through your environment. They're all through your diet. They're all through the ingredients in your food. Pay attention to this one. Anne-Marie Betas at 10. More about essential oils and tapping. Again, getting into the emotional aspect of using essential oils for your health. Tapping. That's something different, something new. You want to tune in for that. And then live from Trinity, it's Saturday morning with Tracy Straub. Yeah, Tracy's going to be interviewing people at the Trinity conference. We don't know who she's going to be interviewing. It could be anybody. It could be Judy Mikovits. Could be Sherry Tenpenny. It could be Ty and Charlene Bollinger. Could be Robert Scott Bell. Could be anybody. She'll be walking the floor interviewing people. And it'll be coming live to you right here tomorrow. And that's tomorrow at 11. And then I'm going to round up the whole week we've been really talking about toxicity this week. A lot of the presentations have been about toxicity. And so we have our device here, the OligoScan, that measures heavy metal toxicity and nutrient density Those are two terms you've been hearing us talk about for a long time. The primary cause of disease, nutrient deficiency and heavy metal toxicity. The Oligoscan measures both. We're going to do a live Oligoscan for you right here tomorrow at noon. Show you the results right on the screen with a volunteer from the audience. And we don't know who that's going to be yet either. But it might be one of us. It might be a lucky customer or client. Because if they volunteer for this free Oligoscan, did I say free? I did. If they volunteer for this Oligoscan, it's free. They just have to agree to have the results put up on the screen. So that's it for today, folks. That's the roundup of yesterday, the preview for today. Stay tuned. In a couple of minutes at 9 o'clock, we're bringing them back. They said it couldn't be done, but we did. The icon, Dr. James Weiner, during this Weiner Memorial Wellness Week, bringing back one of his workshops just for you from 2014. That's at 9. And we'll see you right after that with Mike Gallagher. Enjoy.